If there is a message for us today, I believe it is to learn to live from our heart in love. These short lessons, hopefully, will help to inspire you to live with purpose, love passionately, and inspire others. We are the change agent our world needs. I'm Helen Taves. Step into the river today with me to explore the mysteries of God. They are not hidden from us, but for us to discover.
Well, it is so good to be with y'all. I've just been so excited about a conversation that Father and I have been having for some weeks. I actually shared this last Sunday on Heart of the Bride, and Father said he wanted me to share it here with you all. And so I'm really, really excited about it. Just from the very beginning, I have this verse that's been stirring around in my spirit for several years now. And that is when Yeshua said, I only do what I see my Father doing. I only do what I see my Father doing. Now, I would like to ask 2 or 3 of you, whoever wants to be brave, and tell me, I'm going to be specific. I don't want you to tell me, share with us what the philosophy of that is. But when Yeshua said, I only do what I see my Father doing, how does that translate in your world for you? How does that translate to you, for you in your world? Is there like 2 people, maybe 3, that want to come off mute and just share with us what that, how is that defined in you? Anyone? One person? Go ahead. Susan, do you have your hand up? Go for it.
I do. Well, I think just as soon as you ask the question, for me, right off the bat, it would be living my life in the Spirit. It's that flow. It's that, decision making. It's in the Spirit. It's life in the Spirit. It's kind of simple. It's the Spirit. Yeah.
That's so beautiful.
And you can tell the difference, because when you're in the Spirit, moving in the Spirit, there's life. There's always life. Yeah.
That's so beautiful, Susan. Thank you for sharing that.
Okay.
Anybody else? Do we have one other person that wants to be brave and bold and just share? No wrong answers. Sharina, go ahead. I can't hear you though. I can't hear you still. I'm sorry, Sharina.
Maybe try taking your headset off. That might be stopping.
Take that out?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I can't hear what you are saying. Let me see. Can you hear?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So to me, initially, I was thinking that I can only do what Father is showing me. So if I don't see, I can't do. That's what my understanding. But recently it's changing. So recently, I just feel like the Lord wants me to do things. So I was like, he said, you do, I support. Even though I don't see certain situations, God wants me to make that decision. And then he will support me like that. So I'm a bit confused. Like, I was thinking, I got 2. He said, I can't do, only Father showing only I can do. That was it. Then also the Lord's telling me that you do what you think you should do there. And I support you. So I am in that place at this stage. But I know that what he's meaning is, apart from him, I can't do nothing. Everything I'm doing when I am filled with him. I am just, I'm just like a representative of Yeshua in here. So yeah, that's what my understanding. Yeah.
That's so beautiful, Sharina.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
And I just want to tell everyone a quick one. I'm actually in the office. I got a permanent job and I took 2 hours off. I'm in the office in a room. All followed Helen's and your teaching, and it's just working in me. Just want to say a quick one. Okay. Thank you.
That's so beautiful. That is so beautiful. Well, and it is so incredible too what you just said, Sharina, about you do, Father saying you do, and I trust you and I want to partner with you. I've shared with you all and with our Heart of the Bride group some of the adventures and journey I get to do with Father. And some of the things, we don't oftentimes connect the dots in what Father has us doing because it doesn't fit our religious grid of what moving in the Spirit is or looks like, because the industry of sin, the industry of religion has created this false system or false structure that it needs to look like this. And if you're walking in the Spirit, and if you're following the Lord, and if you're walking in maturity, then it's going to look like this, and it's going to have these metrics to it. And my family and I were talking about just things that the Lord has done with us over the years, and I started to laughing because it's just delightful to me, and I mean that with every fiber of my being. Delightful to watch how Father weaves all of the things that you think that you're just going about your business, doing your thing, and suddenly you look back and you go, oh my gosh, look how that and that and that and that and that all went together to do this. But in the moment, you're in that moment with him. And sometimes we've been trained because of the industry of sin, that mindset of separation and brokenness, that I'm not going to get there until I do these things. I'm not going to be that until I do these things. But I am that I am is. There's a big period exclamation point at the end of that statement. I am that I am is. Moves from perfection, moves from complete and whole in him. Today I was sitting with the Lord, just holding this in my heart and what Father wanted to release. And he said, Kym, do you know that when Holy Spirit, Yeshua, and I are looking at one another, we never see each other in any other way other than complete whole? And it's not like separate pieces and components, but we always see us, the union of oneness, as one. And you're right there in that. You are part of that union oneness. You are part of that union song. It's not the weaker portion. It's not the less than portion. It's not the, well, you've got these attributes and components, and we finagle them to fit into this, that, and the other piece of ourselves. You are completely in absolute perfect synchronicity, unified with us. And I thought, and I'm trying to put this into the language that I can best do it to explain, because that even doesn't do it justice. But sometimes we see this either hierarchical thing, either in a conscious awareness or subconscious awareness, that it's once I reach this place, then I'm going to be able to do these things. I'm going to be able to express. I'm going to be able to be the manifestation of my Father in the earth. And you already are. You already are. I love this. Okay, so Enoch is one of my favorite people. And we have some incredible conversations, he and I. But there's a verse in Hebrews that I absolutely adore. And it says, by faith, Enoch was translated. Okay, you just have to stop there for a second, right? By faith, Enoch was translated. So how, okay, and this has nothing to do with what we're talking about today per se, but how often are you translated in a day? Just saying. Okay. By faith, Enoch was translated that he should not see death, and was not found because God had translated him. For before his translation, he had this testimony, that he pleased Yahweh. I'm going to read that one more time. By faith, Enoch was translated that he should not see death, and was not found because God, Yahweh, had translated him. For before his translation, he had this testimony, that he pleased Yahweh. Now, several years ago, I don't know if any of you have listened to Greg Ordway. We were at Cedar Creek Resort. I was doing a conference with him, and he was talking about this particular verse. And when he said it, suddenly I saw this verse in a way I had never in my life seen it before. By faith, Enoch was translated that he should not see death. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I had always understood that verse to mean Enoch did not experience dying in his body. His physical frame did not die in the earth, but he just stepped into the multi realms, right? With his body. And that's how I'd always seen it. And then this particular day, suddenly I realized, oh my word, Enoch, did not recognize death. So when he looked at any situation, whether it was a person standing in front of him, a conversation, a situation, a circumstance, a decision that needed to be made, a whatever, fill in the blank, he never looked at it through the eyes of missing and broken. He did not look at anything through the lens of the perspective, the perception of the industry of sin. He only looked at every situation. He faced every situation. It judged, if you will, every circumstance, situation, conversation through the eyes, through the heart posture of, I only do what I see my Father doing, because I am that I am. I'm him, he's me, we're one. And so I can only physically see through the eyes of my Father. And I'm going to speak through that framework. I'm going to react and respond through that framework. Not just this way, but this way. Horizontally and vertically. That is a whole different posture of the heart. It really is. It's sitting yourself in that place, one, that you can only see what your Father is doing, and trust yourself. Trust yourself. And that's what Enoch did, because then it says, but before he was translated, before he was actually translated for the last time, according to that writing, I'll say it that way, he pleased Yahweh, because he understood, I am my Father is me, I am that I am. and I am on the earth speaking what my Father is saying. Yes, Samantha, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, just what translation are you using?
That translate, I didn't write it down. Can I let you guys know later? Okay, I will find it and I will let you know later. I didn't write down in my notes what translation it was. I'm so sorry. Good question. So Enoch did not see death. Did not see death. He functioned and moved, and every decision he made, every conversation he had was from the place, from the posture of, I only do what I see my Father doing. And that looks like something, y'all. So a couple earlier I think it was last week, end of last week, I had this encounter. Now, Father and I have been in this dialogue for a couple of weeks now regarding seeing. And I was in this encounter that I was at this restaurant with these two women, and we had this wonderful lunch. We were having this discussion. It was fantastic. And I honestly don't know who they were. However, at the end of our lunch, all of us had leftovers, right? So we had asked the waitress for a container, each of us, so that we could take our leftovers home. And she brought these containers. And so we're putting our food in the container and just having this wonderful dialogue. And I'll call her woman A. We'll say Sarah and Susie. So Sarah says to Susie, you are the epitome of grace and self-control. Now, when the moment she said that, Father literally brought me out of the encounter. Almost, I don't know if it was an audible voice or if it was just that large in my awareness. But he said, "Do you see?" was his language to me. And suddenly this unfolding thing came rolling out. They were talking to one another from a framework of instructions, of definitions of what grace looks like and what self-control looks like. And we're using that metric to describe and to speak about what the attributes were. And Father's words were, that is the definition, I'm so sorry, that is the definition of what man has assigned to those attributes, that fruit of the Spirit. But there is a greater place of sitting and moving with me that allows me to show you what grace looks like, allows me to show you what self-control looks like. And I had to sit with it for a few days thinking, okay, Lord, show me what that means. And he said, look at my son, Yeshua. And when he turned the tables in the temple, that was actually a movement of grace, a movement of self-control, and a movement of kindness. And I went, wow, yeah. And of course, he gave me several other examples. Because our role in I only do what I see my Father doing is from the place, the posture of our heart, that irrespective of what man has defined as grace, we're just using that as an example in this instance, or self-control. If you just look at what Yeshua did by turning the tables in the temple, some would say he lost control. But he actually was doing what his Father was doing. Let's, for example, when Yeshua was sleeping on the boat, He was actually doing what his Father was doing. He was functioning in complete and total peace. And that's what it looked like. That's what it looked like. That's what moving from the tree of life, from life upon life upon life, looks like. Turning the tables for Yeshua in the temple was what living from the tree of life looks like. Not from the good and bad, right and wrong, yin and yang, the polarity of things, but from Father's heart. From I only do what I see my Father doing. What about when Yeshua stood up and spoke to the wind and the waves and told everybody to settle down and be quiet? He was doing what his Father was doing. And every single day, I guarantee you that every one of you on this call find yourself continually, perpetually only doing what you see your Father doing. That's how we live. That's how we are created to function. Not from the industry of sin. Not from the framework of, if I'm doing it the way religion defines it. You know, in that encounter, the point that the first lady was making to the second is she was very understated, and she was very pulled together, and she was very spoke very softly. And because that was the human definition of what self-control and grace look like, that made sense. And please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with any of those things. That is not the point. The point is, I only do what I see my Father doing. What if Father once asks you to walk into a place and be loud and boisterous? And it goes against your nature, or what you think is your nature. And then what? What if he has you go in and turn the tables, per se, in a situation? Because that's what he's doing. But our mindset, the structure that religion has given us, the industry of sin has given us, competes with, oh my goodness, do I want to do this? Can I do this? That sure, that just can't be the Lord. Father, is that you? Because that goes against every bit of what I know of myself. That goes against every bit of what I know of myself. Years and years and years ago, I was actually on staff at a church, and I was sitting in a pastor's meeting, and the Holy Spirit was screaming inside of me, no, to the plans they had laid out that they wanted to do. To the point that the voice of the Lord was so loud, I was sobbing, and my body was hurting. It was such a loud no, adamant. Can you be that I am when it doesn't look like what would be normally his nature and character? Because that is who we are. Is not to take in all of our religious structure into every situation and judge it according to that, according to the description that religion and the industry of sin has taught us. Of grace, oh, let me look at that. Okay, it looks like this. Self-control, okay, that looks like that. And I never sit in a pastor's meeting and tell the senior pastor no. What? I am that I am. I want y'all to say that out loud. I am that I am. I only do what I see my Father doing. Do you realize that our eyes, these eyes here, they account for 80% of all information that our brain receives? 80% of the information that our brain receives. And our eyes allow various amounts of light in so that the image or the picture before our eyes can be displayed in our brain. So in other words, the language of our brain is pictorial. The language of our brain is pictures, is pictorial. And that's a big deal. If you think about it, these guys right here have a huge responsibility. And yet Father trusts them completely to fulfill their responsibility. A good friend of mine says, the eyes fulfill their office. The eyes fulfill their office. That word eyes in scripture is the word ayin. And it's an ayin, a yod, and a nun. Now listen to this. The word see is the word ra'ah in Hebrew, and it means face to face, inspect, consider, look at, give attention to, or to learn about something through speech. To learn about something through speech. Father is shifting our eyes. He is showing us what they've been created for and how to partner with them, not only in the earth, but also from a place and posture that our physical body partners with our spirit man in what our Father is doing, that our bodies come into alignment and agreement consciously, not just subconsciously. Because there is a magnitude of what Father wants for us that we've not even considered yet. You know, years ago, I shared this on Sunday. In 2014, Father had me go back in my journals. In 2014, I had this encounter that was so unsettling. I thought I was going to lose my mind. Literally thought I was going to lose. And I'm not saying that for shock value. I'm not saying that to exaggerate circumstances. I literally thought I was going to lose my mind. Got on the phone with my dad. All of y'all know my dad, Jess. To have somebody on the phone with me because I thought I was going to drop off the edge of sanity. And I wanted somebody on the phone with me just in case. Because I had stepped into it. It's a very, very long encounter with many, many parts. But I had stepped into a place with Father that I had never been before. And it was beyond my language, description, and grid. It's been since the last year, that Father has been unpacking that for me. This is 9 years later. Now, mind you, all along the way, he's been unpacking it. But 9 years later, from something my eyes laid hold of, even though my body was throwing a fit about it, he still knew I could handle it. He still knew, even if you think you're going to lose your mind and all that, it's going to be good. It'll be good. Don't you worry about it. I got you. He was not at all worried about my uncomfortableness or that I felt like I was going crazy. Didn't even bat an eye about it. Now, had I had the presence of mind at that moment to think, okay, wait a minute, Kym, let's just get real here. If it was really something like that, do you really think Father would have taken you there? I didn't have that presence of mind. I was wigged out. Nine years of unpacking that encounter and those promises and that very place that it is. And those are the things that these eyes are created to govern with our Father from, I only do what I see my Father doing. It's not just a non-thing. It's not just an ethereal, intellectual concept in theology. Our eyes are responsible and partner with us to frame up the very voice and sound of our Father's heart that he is releasing. What a joy. What a glory to get to partner with him. He trusts us that much that he has literally given us something that sees his voice, sees the very frequency of the intention of his heart, and can frame that into created realm. How incredible is that? Does that not just blow you away? It blows me away. It blows me away. It fills my heart with such great joy. So these eyes aren't just a non-event, nor are the eyes of my heart a non-event. They partner with us. The very being that our eyes are, they learn about something through speech. Now, I want to read something to you all about that very thing. Genesis 11, verses 1 through 8. At one time, the whole earth had the same language and vocabulary. As people migrated from the east, they found a valley in the land of Shinar and settled there. They said to each other, "Come, let us make oven-fired bricks." They used brick for stone and asphalt for mortar. And they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the sky. Let us make a name for ourselves, otherwise we will be scattered over the face of the whole earth." Then the Lord came down to look over the city and the tower that the men were building. The Lord said, "If they have begun to do this as one people, all having the same language, then nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them. Come, let us go down there and confuse their language so they will not understand one another's speech." So from there, the Lord scattered them over the face of the whole earth, and they stopped building the city. Did you catch that? Their speech. He confused their speech. Now, this is one of those little things that Father woke me up in the middle of the night one night and said, "Hey, Kym, how about this? You know, I don't know about y'all, maybe you guys are already way past this than I am, and I'm just trying to catch up. But I've always understood when the Bible talks about the Tower of Babel and confusing their speech, confounding their speech, that is how the earth got all of the different languages. Right? At least that's what I thought. But this particular night, when the Lord woke me up, he said, "Kym, it wasn't what you thought." And what he said to me, and I'm going to put this into Kym's language to try to explain. I confused their speech. not just the language that they spoke in. It wasn't that everybody spoke, let's say, English, and then now suddenly we've got German and we've got Japanese and we've got Swahili and we've got all the things. But he confused their language. Have you ever been in those conversations where you're talking to someone and you're talking heart to heart and you can feel it because they finish your sentences and you're just on the same page and you're just going, right? And the conversation flows like pop. I mean, it's just like water. And then have you ever been in those conversations that no matter what you say, they never understand a word that's coming out of your mouth, even though you both are talking English or Spanish or whatever it is? And you try to explain it and they're just blank slate. They're not catching it because their eyes were shifted. Their view, their perspective, their vision, and how you see speech, you see intention. And because that was shifted in them, no matter if they all spoke Italian, they were not connecting heart to heart any longer. They couldn't talk on the same wavelength, even if they were using the same words, because they were seeing differently. Their eyes had been shifted because the eyes have a job. Your eyes have a job. They hold an office in the government that is you, in the heavenlies that is you. Not only these eyes, but all of the eyes that surround you work together to watch what Father is doing and then do that, release that, frame that in the earth. Even in those places and times when you're like, Father, I don't even know, because that seems like it's so outside of my character. That seems so, I don't like speaking in front of people. But that's our job. That's who we are. That's who we are. I am that I am looks like something in the earth. And it's not just an ethereal concept. And it's not just about being able to quote verses and be able to define what grace and self-control looks like, and then mirror that. Do you know, when I had that encounter, Father's response to me was, that is not mirroring me in self-control and grace. Because the desire was to mirror a definition of what it is, a man's definition of what grace and self-control look like. And I'm not saying, please, I am not saying we throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm not saying throw it all out. I'm not saying that. What I am saying, I only do what I see my Father doing, period. And we can have full confidence in that. You can have full confidence in that. And there never needs to be a moment that you second guess. Not to say we don't. I still find myself in those instances. I'm having it self. It's okay. But I only do what I see my Father doing, is our portion. Because when Yahweh said that Yeshua, Holy Spirit, Ruach HaKodesh, myself and him are moving in that union oneness, there is no hierarchical thing. There isn't Kym brings the weak portion of us into the mix. She's that part of us. but we love her anyway. We love everything about her. She's amazing. There isn't that. He doesn't see you like that. You are not the weak part of the song. You are not the weak part of the song. And if I can be perfectly honest, there is no weak part of the song. That's still the industry of sin thinking. That's still separation thinking. Broken, missing pieces. I still need to get fixed. And please don't, if you are doing counseling things or any kind of that stuff, don't be condemnation. Don't feel condemnation. There's no guilt or condemnation in any of that stuff. But you are not the weak part of the agreement, of the relationship. It does not exist in him. It does not exist in him. Thus, it does not exist in you. I am that I am. Period. Mississippi black marker, period. Done. You are the picture of perfection. So when we sit from that place and move, have our being, find ourselves in the midst of, I am that I am, I only do what I see my Father doing. I am moving from that place of learning about my Father and myself and all that he desires in creation through the frequency of the voice of his heart. And I'm releasing that through the words I say and the things that I do. That's how you move. That's how you roll. It just is. It just is. I want to finish with this. Genesis 13. Y'all know I love Genesis. It's one of my favorite books. But Moses and I are really good friends. And so I'm constantly in this dialogue with him about this. Genesis 13, verses 14 and 15. After Lot had separated from him, the Lord said to Abram, look from the place where you are. Look north, south, east, and west, for I will give you and your offspring forever all the land that you see. A couple of weeks ago, the Lord, I saw something in the news, article I was reading about, what's it called? Father, help me, remind me. The Satanic Temple that was in New Mexico that had agreed to do abortions for anyone that would want to come and have an abortion there. And they would do an abortion ritual there. And immediately the Lord said, I want you to deal with that. And so our Thursday night group got together and just engaged Father's heart about how did he want to frame up that. And in the midst of our engaging with that completed piece and what Father wanted released in the earth, I saw man's eyes, and I saw this part of every face, and their eyes were wide open, this looking into this brilliant white cloud light. And their eyes were not only wide open, but I could see their eyes were, it was like bloodshot and drops of blood and drops of debris all in this, almost like soot in their eyes, in people's eyes. And as they just engaged this bright white light cloud of Father's presence, their eyes were completely saturated. And Father said, I have removed the perspective of death in man's eyes. And I knew in that moment that this was something he was not only doing throughout the earth, but those of us that have still had that mindset that dictates our speech of separation, of missing and broken, and still not quite missing or making the mark. All of that mindset, that framework, that subconscious and unconscious belief system was being completely removed from the record of our physical body. And so I just want to say to each one of you on this call, you are I am that I am. You function in and from I only do what I see my Father doing. Not someday, not in the future when you get to be this, that, or the other, are you doing these things, or all of these maturity metrics have a check mark beside them. You are I am that I am. When I look at you, I see Father's face. When I hear your voice, I hear his voice. And I'm asking him, when I look at you and I hear you speak, what are you releasing through this person, Father, in this moment right now? Because this person is speaking from your very heart. Period. Because that's how you're built. That's how you're made. That's who you are. And that very sound, that is in you is the very thing, like Peter's shadow, that shifts and changes every person you walk by, regardless of whether you know it or not. Regardless of whether you know it or not. I don't know if any of you have heard Mark Steen before. Years ago, I was listening to one of his testimonials, and it's been years and years, so I'm sorry if I don't get it perfect. It's not my art, but he was talking about that when he got out of the hospital after his massive accident, he was walking down this street, and everything on the street it was a street that was completely demolished, graffiti everywhere. The buildings were torn apart and just fell apart, it was in disarray, complete disarray. As he walked down the street, suddenly the buildings were completely painted and fresh. Grass was growing and flowers were growing and the trees began to bloom. And all of this was transforming down the street as he walked. He wasn't praying. He wasn't laying hands on anything. He wasn't decreeing and declaring. He was just walking down the street, minding his own business, partnering and worshiping Father, just in a conversation, face-to-face conversation. And because I am that I am was present down that street, it transformed everything. That is you. Right now. Today. That's you. Amen. Amen. All right. Miss Helen, do you want to take? There we go.
Are you seriously expecting somebody to speak now? Like, what's wrong with you? Kym, you nailed it. I mean, it's especially touching my heart because for the last week. It's really been a surprise, right, Kym? Where I've been living as well. And I know, we'll have our meeting and we'll laugh about this.
All right.
But it's time, Kym, you nailed it. You really did. It's time for the separation to stop. It's time to understand that seeing is face to face. I mean, it's time to not take these things glibly or casually, but in the same breath, understand that God is amazing. He's not, he's love, right? So he's not waiting for us to mess up, and we're in this learning process. But what a brilliant sharing. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not gonna keep talking because I actually could. I'm very excited about this message, but I'm gonna open it up first to anybody, and if you don't, I'm gonna jump in.
Well, while anybody's wanting to say something, I also want to say, it was really fascinating to me in that encounter was just how, in our desire to live in and from righteousness, we have taken on a grid, a structure, a framework that Father has not given us.
That's
and
right.
yet we use that to define righteousness, to define maturity, to define holiness. I mean, the list goes on. And yet Yeshua so simply, I only do what I see my Father doing.
That's right.
And that just, it shifted so much in my mind of, wow, Lord, those places, and all of us go through that, where you catch yourself saying something or doing something, you're going, oh my gosh, I can't believe those words actually came out of my mouth, right? Like I'm going to pack my bags instead of translocate to Helen's house, that kind of stuff, but that really is the things that is the language Trinity confused in the moment at Babel.
Okay.
Anybody have anything to say or add? Go ahead, Helen.
Well, no, I like it. This really excites me because I too like going back to Genesis. Giselle's not on the call, but years ago, she and I did a book called Supernatural Childbirth, and we did a class called The Early Bird, and it seemed everything that we laid a foundation for the subject of childbirth ended up back in the early bird class. So every time you say I'm back in Genesis, Kym, it's the early bird class. We're gonna
I gotta remember that.
we're going to go through this time, and but that early bird is our foundation. It is where it all began, and it was so early. It was even before Moses, except we were with him, which is a whole other story. But I just feel that this is so relevant today. And to introduce another subject, we from what we're seeing here, other than balloons being popped by aircraft here on our holiday, the revival in the different colleges that is outstanding, right? That the Lord would be doing something like this whole juxtaposition of what's happening in the world, and there he goes. if we aren't careful in times like, and I don't mean careful as in fearful, careful, but if we aren't aware, we will continue to separate. And your message is so much about the oneness, about the I am, and about him, about the face to face, the what Jesus did, what he modeled was for our eyes on him, and nothing, not other things. He didn't go to a church or to a synagogue to see what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
He went up into the mountain to see what his Father was doing, and then he only did what he saw the Father do. And it's so easy to get trapped into systems that we're used to and comfortable with. I'm going to phone Kym and see what she thinks about it. Well, yeah, that's a good thing. It's nice to have really good friends, but the fact of the matter is we have a hotline to the creator of the universe, and we don't always go there first.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'd rather phone you with what I've seen the Father do and then share from that point than, the old fashioned. So I think this is a hugely timely message to us, and I'd love to hear what other people are. I'm going to stop talking. What is wrong with me? Stop talking, Helen.
I hear you.
Yeah, Kym, I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I definitely, I remember years ago, gosh, that was probably 7 or 8 years ago now, I guess. I had this encounter, and I don't remember if I've shared this here, but myself and a small little group of people were with me on a ship that we thought we were going on a vacation. And the ship sailed off. It was a big, gigantic ship. And suddenly this ruckus began to happen on the ship. And every once in a while, and it was quite unsettling. And every once in a while, these beings would come by myself and this little group of people that I was with, and the beings would say, "You need to declare your solidarity. You need to declare your solidarity." And they'd walk by, and as every time they said that, more and more of the people that we noticed in front of us were dividing off on this side or this side, and they would divide off. And every once in a while, one or two of the people that we were with would, oh, okay, and they would go leave our group and go to whichever side, right or left, if you will. And I think 3 different times throughout that, Holy Spirit came and said, don't engage that. Just be still. Just stay here and be still and watch. And as I watched the groups getting larger and larger, combating each other, right, in their solidarity, and at this pinnacle moment, the 2 people that were leading these 2 different groups began to combat one another in verbal battle. Who was the best, who was the strongest, who was the blah, 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 blah. And we just stood there. And of course, by this time, me and my little group are just, a handful of people. And they're battling each other with all this, craziness. And suddenly there was a huge jolt. And we all ran. We all thought the ship was going to fall over and, sink. We ran to the edge of the ship. And as we looked over the edge, the ship lifted out of the water, out of the ocean, and began to ascend. the entire ship. So I dare say there may be a lot of combating solidarity, voice your solidarity, which, you know, all the things that go with that. But for us, Father is saying, be resolute in your I amness. Be resolute knowing your I amness, that you move in what he's doing, what he's saying, what you see him doing, that's what you do. You speak what he is doing. You release what he is doing. And that is going to bring life upon life upon life upon life.
I think it's one of the, I 100% agree with you. I think it's one of the hardest challenges in this day and age with there's so much shifting going on. There's so much duality and lack of understanding. Like we're trying to come into this. I was going to say a new place, but you know what? It's not. It's an ancient place that we are really in, and it's far more of a completed place that we've ever been in. So it takes a lot of courage to speak up. It takes a lot of courage to stand in solidarity with like-mindedness. It takes a lot of courage to stand in your own sovereignty and to speak out and to be that. But it is I think it's very timely. I think it's very timely, and we can do all of it in love and in grace and in mercy. And when we don't, when we do it without our ego involved, I think we have a great opportunity to make a difference. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I like to share something. Helen, boldness is exactly, that was the key for me. So I'm stepping out and hope I can articulate it. But you know, the message, Kym, but I am, and righteousness and all of that is wonderful. Love it. And, you know, as we hear more about this, especially for me, I am learning to walk in it, believe it, desire it, and all that. But, you know, we're talking about, you mentioned the industry of sin. So when we see, so let me see. So this message in this community, the way I see it is, so, you know, we have a personal relationship with God. So it's maybe easier for us to say that I am, you know, the righteousness of God, I am. And know this message. But what about people that do not know God or have a relationship with Father, and they're actually walking in a way that we perceive as a sinful manner against biblical principles? So I'm bringing this up because it's so heavy in my heart, in this whole message that you were, you know, sharing with us. I couldn't take my mind away from a family member that just last month told us that he's gay. We didn't know that. He's 33 years old. And it's like, oh, wow. So I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, how do I see him, you know, in this place of righteousness? I mean, I you know, just a month ago. So I'm still processing this whole pain, this whole shock. So I'm thinking, should I bring it up? And I'm thinking, okay, I want to step out. I think this is a safe community, mature women here. So help me. Actually, the question is, how do we take this message to the people that we consider are not walking in righteousness? Did I frame it? Did I explain it? Okay.
You did. You did.
My heart is heavy. I mean, a month ago, it's like, what? Oh, yeah, I'm gay. Okay. That's okay. God loves you. I love you. I'm with you. That was my answer. But of course, how do I continue to talk to him about this with this message? So there.
Helen may have something else that she wants to share about that. I would honestly, I would share what Father gives you to share, what he tells you to share. Because every single person that is walking down this road, let's call it that, this belief system, is the Lord's going to deal with each one differently. Have a different answer, have a different conversation. It's going to look different. There is no cookie cutter way of handling it. And so my recommendation for you is ask the Lord, what are you to say or do? What is he doing? What is he saying? Because that is the answer. And it's not a religious structure of these are the do's, these are the don'ts. This is the way you do it, because it's not like that. It's all about relationship. I loved when you said, well, I telling him I love you. And that is the most important piece of it. But that love is going to look like something. A lot of times we want love to look very, very sweet and nice and accepting and inviting. And sometimes love looks like turning tables. But that must be, Father, what are you doing so that I can do exactly what you're doing? So I can say exactly what you're saying, because he knows exactly what this gentleman's heart needs that is going to bring life to his heart. And so that is what I would encourage you to sit with the Lord and see what he's doing, and then do that.
Yes. Getting the Father's heart for him. It's been from the beginning. It's like, okay, Lord, it's not coming out of my religiosity, my mindset of sin. And I'm not there. I mean, God has been changing my heart for a while. I'm not in that place anymore, but I'm still, just trying to get my thoughts together. Well, how to talk to him, how to even relate to him now. That's kind of like where I'm, how do I go? How do I take it from here? How do I relate with him? So
completely understand that.
And I love your message.
And it could be for a season that isn't part of your dialogue. That could be for a season that's not part of the conversation. But again, I'd go back to, what is Father doing, so that you can mirror that. Helen, did you want to add anything into that?
Where I've come to, and where I feel that Father is taking me, is deeper and deeper and deeper into understanding his love, because he created every single one of us, absolutely every single one of us on this planet. If you came into this planet by water and blood, legally, it's a whole other thing. But if you came in that way, you were created by God, and he didn't make mistakes. If we can learn not to separate ourselves by our own judgment, by religious beliefs, by cultural beliefs, but truly from the point of love, then we will have the answers. And in that process, for me, as I am embracing my walk in that love, not as a feeling, not as a I love you because, but I love you as he loves you. Do you know he does not judge the way we do, because he is love. He doesn't have to remind himself that he is love. So he comes to the least and the greatest of sinners. In our books, we have some kind of a ridiculous scale that's a little sin. I know in some religion that's a venial sin. Oh, that's a mortal sin. This one you're really going to pay for, but this one you can buy yourself out of. And this one is we are such a silly bunch when it comes to a lot of this. And the reality is that he is love and we have his DNA. So if it was me with that, and you know what, I actually have these challenges in our extended family as well. Here's my answer. I don't care. I seriously don't care. All I want to do is in their presence and in conversations about the whole thing is to say, you know what, they're made in God's image. And I'm just going to come from that point of love. And I will not bring into that a Bible bullet, because quite frankly, there are other inspirational readings, scriptures that we can uplift people with rather than point to something that is already hurting them. And I just don't care. I want them to feel the love that I feel when I go in and see what he's doing. I don't feel called to the change. I don't feel called to have a banner. I don't feel called to march in a parade. I just feel called to love the person in front of me. So, Albertina.
I love that, Helen. Love that.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
So I just wanted to share something that I was talking to God about a couple of years ago. I was actually reading the book of Genesis to my kids, and we got to a point where it was about Cain, and God was saying, Cain, Cain, sin is crouching at your door. And Holy Spirit said to me, do you realize that Father God has been fathering this boy all this time to this time? And I thought to myself, and I was like, that is so true. He wasn't separated from God at all, despite the fact of what we hear about Cain, that he was illegitimate and all this stuff, which is great, whatever. But there was never a separation of God's love with Cain. Because if you look further in the New Testament, in the Old Testament even, it talks about how a father who disciplines a son actually loves his son. You're not going to be disciplined by God if God doesn't love you. So he shows me that, and I thought to myself, well, that's very interesting. And then after he had killed Abel, God comes back to him again and says, you know, what have you done? And Cain says, I'm my brother's keeper and so forth. And God says, now I'm going to drive you and put you at the different part of the garden, outside the garden. Mind you, when we've read Genesis, and from, you know, biblical scholars from before and so forth, they tell us that, oh, you know, there was a separation with Adam and Eve when they ate the fruit, but you do not hear personally, when I was reading that, I thought to myself, I said, Holy Spirit, are you telling me that there was never a separation? Like that separation that I had in my mind, that I was even separate from God, was never there. Because Cain makes a very interesting statement. He says, if you send me that way, far away from you, then I am going to be separated from you. I am not going to be in your presence anymore. And he began to actually ask and beg not to be taken out of God's presence. So if the son is actually saying that of Adam and Eve, it is saying, do not take me out of his presence, that means there was never separation. And I thought to myself, I was like, so where did we get all this thing of there was separation from the garden? There was never separation, because God even says to him, even if you are that far, I will put a mark on you that anyone who sees you will not harm you, meaning I'm still with you. So anyway, I just wanted to share that.
Albert.
Albertina, I think that's really good. I understand. I get that. And the fact is, we are part of something that we're just beginning to get a handle on. He created us in his image. So anybody that we're talking to, and whether it, and this is pretty tough sledding, because we need to be able to love our world, the people in our world. That includes your well, we're all over the globe in this call, but that your prime minister, your president, your whoever you see, that is the one that the person that just killed all those people in the school, or the bomb, or whatever they did. All of these people are created in the image of God, to the point that within every single person, whether, and we were talking about, homosexuality, name the sin. I mean, it doesn't matter. I love the industry of sin. That I think that's just a great label. We have made an industry of it. So let's do something. Let's stop it. Done. So because love will overcome that. Love will change that. When we realize there's no difference. He is encoded in every single person. Now, all of us have made different choices. What your life, my life, is because of choices that we have made for our life. Is my choice better than somebody else's? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not going to judge that. I'm going to say, Lord, I'm just going to keep seeing what you're doing and love the people around me. And that's as big a job as trying to figure out how we can fix people in the industry of sin.
Yeah. Well, and
I think it's our job. I really don't, because somebody's got to love them. Sorry, Kym, I interrupted you.
No, I apologize. I was going to say, and that is exactly what is written of Enoch, that Enoch did not see death. And of course, yes, it means his body did not physically die, but it also means he did not judge things that were the things that were in front of him, the people that were in front of him. He did not discern situations, people, through the lens of death, through the lens of sin, of the industry of sin, through the lens of broken, missing. But all he could see was from the tree of life.
Yeah.
All he did was, I only do what I see my Father doing, from life to life to life to life.
That's right. Exactly.
And I think when you look at it from that perspective, even with Cain, even with Cain, despite of how we've judged him as humanity, as the sinner, God did not judge him from that perspective. There was still love. He still loved him enough to even say, hey, there's something coming. Fix it within yourself before it overcomes you. So there was always love. That to me, when I read that, I remember just sitting and thinking and going, Holy Spirit, like, this is the most amazing love. This is love, because it doesn't look at the flaws. It doesn't look at what we consider sin. It looks at the whole person as, nothing missing, nothing broken.
Yeah.
Well, Albertine, I think that's a really great case in point. But let's take that as a foundation, and then let's go to the cross where it was done like that. That's something that we seem to have a greater difficulty with, the fact that that sin was forgiven, that we've resurrected the industry of sin, but it seems a little ridiculous in the face of what was done on the cross, because that sin was taken. The sin of the world was taken, yours, mine, etc. But it was the sin of the world. It's the same. It's where this conversation started with the revelation from a family gathering, and it was taken. Now, what if we supported all the best of that in a person, and just let the rest stay with Father? He hasn't stopped caring. He hasn't stopped being able to move things around to bring a person in the right time, in the right place, to the right place for them. But what if we took our hands off and just loved the process, and encouraged and brought caring and support, where the world might be mad at you? I'm not going to be mad at you. What if we did that? What if, right?
What if?
Yeah. Susan?
Yeah, I'm so enjoying this, and it's so affirming. When my granddaughter was with me this afternoon, and we were making dinner, she's 14, and we were talking about all the circumstances in a young teenager's life that can just either sweep you off your feet or give you a chance to let God kind of lift you up. And one of her half sisters had been really, she's a little bit older, and she had been on a really kind of a sketchy track. And a friend of hers, I guess he was about 15 or 16, was killed in a car accident. And she suddenly had a revelation of, in that awful circumstance, she had a revelation of God's love for her. And we started to talk about that. My granddaughter and I were kind of talking back and forth. And all of a sudden, my granddaughter said, "Oh, I don't think there's going to be hardly anybody in hell, do you?" And I said, "No." I said, "I'd be real surprised if there's anybody left in hell, because that's what Jesus came to do." And I watched her get a wider expression and understanding of, oh, that's what all the sin forgiven means. And it was such a sweet, sweet moment. And then, of course, we went on to other things, but I just had to share that, because this is just affirming over and over that industry of sin, like we've just got to go on strike, take that thing down, it's just awesome. So thank you.
You know what, when you put it like that, like in that, when the Lord gave me that language, suddenly I realized, oh my gosh, like any other industry, if I don't like their products, I don't have to buy them or use them. And I thought, oh, I love that.
Yeah,
it really is that simple.
Mm-hmm. We're going to boycott it.
Right.
Yeah. That's so great, Susan. Thank you. Judith?
Yes, I just wanted to say, Kym, that has so touched my heart tonight, your message. And the thing about the back, and I've had, lots of surgeries, but the thing about the back is made of steel, and going forward, but having the courage. And I know that's what it's all about, that I have to step out and have the courage where I haven't had before. And so it just so resonated in my heart. And thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure, Judith. That just blesses my heart so much.
How is everybody doing with this? Okay, Sharina. Sharina, hi there.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you? Okay. So I want to thank you, first of all, for all of you for taking up this journey. So I've been evolving slowly. So and then I used to look at gay and it really used to trouble me. And I always wonder how to reach out, how, I want to fix things and stuff like that. I used to have that before, but not anymore. Not anymore. Now I learned to, after all your teachings, I've learned to look at them through the eyes of the Lord. The Lord is not looking at them that way. So why should I look at him? God's eyes, they're perfect people, his creation. And then me, no, then, when I have that, and I don't have that burden too, because before I used to have the burden, but now I know that they will come. They are not going to go off like that to hell or whatever. They all got the light in them, and they are just don't know yet. And then for my job is to look at them and see them, give them love, and nothing is wrong with them. That's all I have to do. And my presence, my light, they'll slowly change them, but I don't have to do anything. So I just need to show the love to them. And I just know that they are all, nothing is lost. No one is lost. Everyone will come to know, and that gives me the joy. Before it's so burdened, and that keeps me in that, sort of not good. That's for me. But now that joy is in me, and then I don't see, but sometimes it keeps coming back. Especially in your very close people. You're my own. I got even my son. I know he has issues, but I still keep seeing him as God's eyes, even though how many years it takes. That's the truth. What I'm saying is not the truth. So that truth will set me free and then him free. So this is what, is happening to me now. Yeah. So that's it. That is all I wanted to share. And this all from your teachings. 1 year ago, I was not like this. All because I came to River 474. I met Kym, and then my own journey too. It's all together, and it's amazing. And it's amazing. I'm so excited. I'm just I'm totally a different person. Not it has changed me. And the book, and the book that we read, all have been working in me. That doesn't mean I don't see issues, but I see issues, but I know how to look at it in different eyes. Sometimes I need every day keep on saying, who I am, and I need to reaffirm over and over again until it just sits in me, and then I can walk through. So it's on a process. It's still in a process. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I have to get back to work soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharina.
We're really glad that you were able to take time. I'm glad for your new job. Really celebrate with you how the Lord is just moving you into the right places at the right time and supporting and blessing you. Just we're with you, girl. Walking with you. Awesome. Wow. Well, I think just staying in love, being in love, sticking a pin in the industry of sin, that almost rhymes. We can have a poem here. We are so good at judging, aren't we? Ed did something. We have because we live in a country and where we live, it's very cold for a long time. And we have a lot of beggars on the street, not a lot, but at corners, we have people that are begging for money, and it seems to be their profession. And Ed and I had this conversation about them, and it's very easy to say, well, I'm not going to give them money because I know that they're going to go and use it for sex, drugs, rock and roll, whatever, right? And we talked about it. The more we talked, we said, well, what would love do? What would love do? Are we going to judge? We're going home to a beautiful home. We can have our fire going and sit and have a cup of tea. We aren't struggling standing on a corner, all that. And Ed went a few days later, he went out and he bought a bunch of Tim Hortons gift certificates for $5 or $10 a piece. He bought a lot of them to give away. No, and thought, let's put our judgment aside, let's put everything aside, and let's give extravagantly. Let's do that. And you know, it's released something when you take your judgment out of things for people and just do your best to give, even to strangers. And I just feel that this whole teaching, you know, for me, it's just brought and reaffirmed. And I'll give a little testimony of today that I do this when I'm walking. There are a lot in Mexico, there are a lot of beggars, and coming at everything from a non-judgmental. And today there was a little boy on the street. He was with his mother. He's been there for years. We've actually supported him for years. And today I went up to him and I put some money into his little cup, whatever it was. And I waited today and I just took his hand. You know, he can't see and he's crippled and he's extremely what we would call retarded. I'm sorry, it's a bad word, but I don't know how else to explain it. And just took his hand. Do you know, he took my hand and he went like this to his cheek. Oh. And I went, oh golly, you know, somewhere from the inside of him received from the inside of me. It had nothing to do with the transaction that was taking place. And I just think, Lord, help me to live in that place. Yes. No judgment. Like I'm really at the place, I don't care what it is. I just care if I can help a bit somehow, come alongside, walk with you, do whatever. And Kym, tonight has been, I think you've encouraged all of us to be better and bolder.
Thank you. It really has been my honor and delight to be here with you guys tonight. Truly has.
Well, we always totally always enjoy. You're beautiful from the inside out, and I always look forward to what you have to share, and I'm looking forward to chatting when I get home as well. Does anyone else want to say anything before we leave? It's really hard.
I just want to thank everybody for your words, and this was more like a therapy for me to hear confirmation. You know, I don't have a community or people to talk this through, so this just want to help. Thank you, Kimberly and Helen and everybody else that share their thoughts, and I knew this was a safe place to share my thoughts. And you know, just like Sharina was saying, you know, I think she speaks for me and many of us. Maybe we have grown so much in this. I have grown so much in love, understanding of Father's heart. You know, Kimberly's teaching of a I am. At the beginning, it offended me, to be honest. It's like, what? Because I never heard it. I never heard the I am teaching before. So the religious doctrine, show its teeth and feet and everything. And like, no. So it took me a while to process it, but I am so different. I mean, I can see myself that, it's just, you don't have words to explain the difference because it's inside. It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah.
Kym, I want to thank you so much. This was perfect. That no industry of sin just hit me. I don't have words yet. But I know that it's tied into, I've just been thinking about, okay, so here's my position, that here's my work and in healthcare, and it is a broken system and everything else. And I have this dream of what could be. And I was seeing them as separate, and yet I realized they're not separate at all. And yeah, so it's just a whole new level. And it's like, I was seeing pictures and just slight, like the shift over the last couple of days, even though I wasn't aware of it until you put words to it today. So that's been very exciting.
That's so cool, Anna. I
Very
so
cool.
agree with that. It's interesting when the Lord showed me, I heard that industry of sin. I'm like, Father, that is incredible. And what hit my spirit in such a profound, like, way was, I am that I am is so glorious that anything that doesn't look like I am that I am becomes irrelevant.
Come on.
Great. Yeah.
And that means every eye turning to partake of this is who we are. This is our reality from that place of union.
Right.
So you even saying that, I mean, can you imagine, Lana, in that industry of healthcare, you holding that reality of that picture Father's given you, and every time you step into that place, you look at it, function, react, and respond to it from that truth and that reality Father's given you, then missing and broken.
Right.
What will that shift?
Yeah. Come on.
Yeah. So
Doesn't that
exciting.
just, I mean, right?
Yeah. Because it's so easy to get sucked into the negative and into the, you know what, like, yeah. So yeah, to see it whole versus broken and
So,
anyway,
so good. So good.
so good.
We're with you.
Amen.
I know.
Totally. Maggie,
Where'd she go? There she is.
are you there, Maggie?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Hi. Yeah.
Oh, you can, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say thank you, Kym.
You know what, Maggie? It's very, very soft. Can you turn it up a bit?
I'll turn it up a bit. Is that any better? I don't know. Perhaps it's not going to work. I'm using my phone today, so you can't hear me. Is that what you're saying?
No, we can hear you. It's very soft. We can hear you.
I'm gonna lean in so I can hear you clearly. You
so
go,
sorry.
Maggie. Whatever you want to
I'm so
say.
sorry. Okay, well, I just wanted to say that over the last few weeks, I don't quite know how to phrase it, but it's sort of my way of judging people has been judged. I've kind of been, on a journey, and we talked about we had the book club a few weeks ago. That was something that my sort of my religious feathers maybe was ruffled, and I had to get past some things, because I was judging people. And but I knew, I don't know, I think this is how I've always been. But then when, we had these conversations, and even tonight, I'm really beginning to think and that this isn't how we're supposed to be, but this is how we kind of have been, if I'm honest. So I'm really learning how to not judge and to listen, because there is so much that people have to offer who often come across as being not valid in what they may be saying because of maybe something that they may have done. Am I making any sense?
Yeah.
You are.
So,
Yes.
So the Lord has really been sort of on me in this way, just listening to people's stories. And then there are times when I just feel like I want to judge, and I have to sort of stop and say, no, this isn't what God would want me to do. And when I look at God and the way in which he used people, they were all a bunch of criminals. And, the disciples, for example, Moses, Jacob, you look at the people that he used were very unlikely people, yet he had a plan for each of them. So I'm really interested in, what this is showing me. But I do have a question. And the question is, I've started to read from the beginning of the Old Testament, working my way through. Just my husband and I decided to do that. And what I find fascinating, and can't quite get my head around, is how that when people sinned against God, when they didn't worship him and they kept falling off the bandwagon, I'm so surprised at how many times they fell off the bandwagon. And many times God destroyed them. There's one occasion, I think it was the Korah, he actually opened up the earth and swallowed them because they did something wrong, or they took spoil from, when they went to war, they were told not to do certain things, and then they found they couldn't succeed, and they didn't know why. And God said, somebody's got something in there. They've hidden it under their tent. And, there was a lot of destroying. And I just trying to get my head around. I just wondered if you could speak to that to give me some understanding. I know God is love. I know, and I know his love. I feel his love. We know his love. But just going back a bit and just trying to understand what was going on in that period would be really helpful. And I don't mean to go off trail, but it just kind of ties in with what you're saying to me. I'm just trying to get an understanding. Would that be okay?
Absolutely. So Maggie, if I just want to make sure I understand, you're asking, why did all of the drastic response from Yahweh in his treatment of humanity when they were walking in sin?
When he took them out of the wilderness, he took them out of Egypt and took them into the wilderness, and you read about how many times they murmured, and then many of them were destroyed. In fact, none of the original people over the age of 20, I believe, actually went into the promised land.
Yeah.
because of the way in which they murmured and sinned and that sort of thing. So I was just trying to understand what was going on in the Father to destroy all those people. I have a sense that Moses, if God didn't destroy those people in some of those times, Moses would have been destroyed. And God was preserving, I sense that God was preserving Moses, because Moses was very, he was very pivotal to the success. And if he didn't destroy the people, they would have destroyed him. They were ready to stone him. Why did you take us out of Egypt? We were having a good time. We weren't having a good time, but at least we had 3 meals a day, yada, 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 that sort of thing.
Well, absolutely. I know that there's no short answer to your question, but if I can answer it as small as I can, part of Father's response, at least this is my piece of it. Helen may have something else she wants to add, but part of I believe the reason of Father's response, if you think about it, one, all of those things are the different aspects of humanity that every human being goes through in our mind, and how we relate not only to ourselves but to each other and to him. And it's dealing from that sin nature or separated place in their thinking. And truly that structure of their belief system affected and constrained how Father reacted and responded to them. That is what they believed about him, and how he would deal with them. For example, him inviting them up the mountain to have a relationship, a face-to-face relationship with him. And they said, no, let Moses do it. We want you just to tell us about it, and we'll live vicariously through you. So there was a lot of that constraint, if you will, that humanity placed on Yahweh. They were uncomfortable with a face-to-face relationship, an intimacy, union relationship with him. So some of it has to do with that. And there's so much more that we could unpackage, but for time, we can discuss that at another time if you want. Helen, did you want to add anything to that?
Well, I see it a little fairly simply, and this may seem like oversimplifying, but he created mankind, and mankind chose, because mankind is we are the only species that has free will. And so with our free will, we chose our own way. When we did that, he established immediately the path of redemption. Like right in the very beginning, he established the fact that we would be redeemed from that original sin. So the first Adam came under that original sin where he rebelled. So everything under when he was dealing with Moses and the commandments that we call the 10 commandments, it was really not 10 commandments. It was not 10 thou shalt nots. It was actually an offer for us to unite with him, to marry him, to be the bride at that time. And that's a whole different teaching. And the Israelites said, no, we don't want that, just as Kym said. So what he did then was he created a covenant, and he put his name on that covenant, so that he had if he came against it, he would destroy himself, because his word was his bond. And so what we read in the Old Testament from Genesis right on to the book of Acts, by the way, because Matthew, Mark, and Luke, John are all under the Old Covenant, even though in our Testament it's Mark. So if you read it in the light of God upholding his covenant with his people, he had to make the decisions that he made to punish, to destroy, etc., because that was the deal. Right. Now we go into that place where Jesus took upon himself. They said enough is enough. So Jesus took upon himself flesh to dwell among us, to show us how to live. He was the second Adam. So he came as though he was before the fall. And he showed us how to live, and he showed us how to do it, and he showed us what to do. He showed us what was possible. And then by his sacrifice, he established a new covenant in freedom by his blood, and destroyed all of the former, the former was then passed away. Behold, we come into the new. So when you read in the old, under the old covenant, it wasn't a matter of a different God. It was the exact same God, loving God, who had to fulfill his word because he made a deal with the people. The people messed up royally. God never did.
Yes.
To the point where he came in and established the new. Like it was more chances than we deserved. But that's what he did. And so if you read it in the light of establishing covenant, what that whole covenant means, and then coming into a new covenant and the total freedom, because the old was passed away, then we come into this. And I don't know if that helps you, because I know there's
it does.
a lot
It
of
does,
stuff
really.
behind that, and I could go on for a long time, but
No, that's really good. It's just that one thing that was pressed, I couldn't get past that. I couldn't understand what was going on. But thank you for that. And thank you again, Kym. And I hope I haven't taken up too much time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maggie.
never enough time.
But you know what, that face-to-face thing, because when Moses died, God said, I'm not going to speak to, I think he was speaking to Joshua, and he says, there's no one like Moses. But of course, today, now with Christ and, his death on the cross, we can speak face to face with God, face to face, heart to heart, spirit to spirit.
That's right.
And that's my prayer at this moment in time. I want to speak to him face to face. I want to hear his voice. I want to hear him the way Moses did. It was just so friend to friend, wasn't it? That's such a beautiful relationship that they had, right?
You want to hear a Maggie like Maggie does, because you know what? If there was never a Moses, there's Maggie, and you are his favorite, best friend in the world.
Right.
Greater than Moses. Well, I am going to just say how much I love you guys. And I want to read you tonight. I usually do the Aaronic blessing, but I found this actually as I was going through some things on my phone. And it's from the Hebrew word studies of the Aaronic blessing. So I just want to read it to you. Yahweh will kneel before you, presenting gifts, and will guard you with a hedge of protection. Yahweh will illuminate the wholeness of his being toward you, bringing order, and he will provide you with love, sustenance, and friendship. Yahweh will lift up his wholeness of being and look upon you, and he will set in place all you need to be whole and complete. Wow, English doesn't do it, does it? Bless you. All right. And you know what? I've already messed up because Kathy wanted to, before we leave, Kathy, go ahead.
Oh, I just put in the chat link to Heart of the Bride. If anybody would like to sow into Kym's ministry there, and and bless her. Thank you so much, Kym, for being here tonight.
Oh, thank you so much, Kathy. Thank you for having me, Helen. I just love you to death.
Love me to life. I already died.
Love you to life, of course. Yes. Love you eternally. There's that.
That's the one.
But it really is. I so delight being with you guys. So thank you.
Yeah, it's been a great evening. Really appreciate you and just how amazing the Lord's working in all our lives. So thank you. Bless you. Bless you. Thanks, Kimmy.
Thank you. Love you guys. Mwah.